Just found
So
that.
you're getting
and that
mould in the corner there.
just sometimes.
Oh, I can see actually on the paintwork. You get this here. So this is, so it's outside from about that point onwards, and there's a slight discoloration there. But I'm looking, that's normally a sign of water passing through building material, which could come from a leak above,
Yeah.
or it could be from the outside. So I'll investigate.
I mean, it was an old leak. It was about a year ago. But
Okay.
Can it bubble the plaster work like that?
When did the plasterwork start bubbling?
Well, more recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um.
I noticed it. I guess. Yeah, in the last couple of months.
Okay.
But the leak was a while ago.
Okay. I'll have a look at that. Okay, but I'd say let's just scuff in there. Doesn't. So you've I don't know whether this before your time, but you've got the old Shriver damp proofing system.
Okay, I don't know. That is before our time.
They're sort of little rectangular extractions from the wall on the outside. And what that means is that in the past somebody has thought that you've had rising damp, which you wouldn't do. You don't get rising damp in London.
Okay.
But they treated it as if it, and typically you'll also have the wall, they often replace the external wall. It doesn't feel like it's, because you can normally feel a ridge where they've done it, but I'm not feeling that.
Yeah.
But it's possible. Sometimes they do it sometimes they do it more neatly than other times. But so yeah, that's something I'll investigate as well. Your phone's going. Be clear, when you've got mould, you've got excess vapour.
Yeah.
Which means three things: that you've got a source of vapour that isn't being ventilated properly.
Yeah.
So I'll have a look at that. It means that you've got poor airflow.
Yeah. Okay.
And you've got a zone of heat loss.
Yeah.
And this is outside wall to about there.
Yeah.
So you're going to get heat loss in the corner, and you're going to get slight reduction of airflow because of obviously having the cupboard here. Not much you can do about that.
Yeah.
But that's the explanation for why you're getting it here.
Okay.
And then, but the source of the vapour. And have you got data loggers? Have you had a chance to?
Do you know what? I
haven't.
got them too late, and then
That's all right.
So I haven't used them yet.
Are they here though? We
Yes.
can set them up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll get you to send me an update in a week's time.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's so we'll do that now. I'll calibrate them first.
Yeah.
So to some degree in bathrooms you've got much greater risk of mould, and I'll test the fan. To some, it's better to have mould in bathrooms than anywhere else. And HG anti-mould spray is a really good way of getting rid of it. It's got bleach as its active ingredient.
It's strong, isn't it? I think we've used some.
Strong, yeah. But I mean, we'll see if the vent it could be the issue. So we'll have a look at that.
Yeah, that'd be good. And then the wall, you get sometimes water.
Is this external?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're not joined on this side.
No.
But you are to the front though, aren't you? Or maybe.
No, this side is all exterior.
Oh, it's all exterior.
And it's the old part of the house. It's not.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have a look at that.
It
so
does get, and it gets. Sometimes you can feel it's
damp and cold.
It helps keeping the radiator on. We've got a kind of thing that you can keep on about 19, 20, and you don't really get it so much. But if you don't, this will get wet to the touch, and then you get a lot of mould there.
Okay.
We have had it in the past in the corner as well.
Okay, there are a few simple tricks that are worth thinking about. One is using a dehumidifier.
Yeah.
But I'll look at the ventilation. The issues that you're showing me look like they're all.
I know. One of they sat on the curtain and then it.
I did. The ventilation. We'll have a look. So vapour. It's possible that you've got some leak also from the front. So I'll have a look at that separately. Okay. Let's have a look at your data loggers. Just say it's a great extractor fan, but relatively noisy. So maybe it isn't used, but it's going out. isn't coming back through. So that number there should show 15 as the extraction rate, and it's showing 4.6. Get condensation on these windows, and there's mould around there, and mould down here, and in various places downstairs, and then we've got condensation forming here and dribbling down behind here. This is external wall. We'll have a look on the temperature of on the thermometer, the infrared camera. So it's only 10 litres. Ideally it should be 20, but it's going in the right direction. So this is showing the zones of heat loss, and the corner, particular heat loss because there's more external surface area, and then obviously this is close to the corner down there. And as strange as it may seem, actually shelving can make some difference because you're not getting the transfer of heat. The radiator is nearby, but yeah, this time of year I can't see as much, but you'll see this heat loss there. Actually that mirrored cupboard will make some difference. And then into the bay, and then in the corner there, there's a lot of heat loss, and this cupboard is just marginally reducing the transfer of heat from radiators. I'll go downstairs now. So you've got a zone of heat loss there, which is why you're getting mould. And this, well, we'll have a better understanding of that shortly.
So we know there's, excess moisture, but why is it?
So the most of what I'm seeing now is internal vapour from insufficient ventilation, and the bathroom has got to be one of the primary sources.
But would that cause, because obviously where the nail's gone, that
would cause that.
There's wet within the brick, or is that?
I will have a look on the outside, but generally, if you've got what's called penetrating damp, which is water that's coming from the outside in, you'll have a big brown stain. A bit like, if you've got a leak from, you'll see a big brown stain. Well, I'm not seeing that. What I'm seeing is a leak and rust from a screw.
So you think it's just because it's condensing on the wall and it's getting into there, and then it's causing. So we need to.
That's what it looks like.
Reduce the vapour in the atmosphere.
Yeah, and you've already said that you've got condensation and ventilation issues there. So. Is
there anything you could do? Like, could you insulate the exterior walls?
So there are three elements. One is, and the most important, and the only important one, is getting rid of the vapour. And internal vapour should be in line with outside vapour. If you've got a well-ventilated property, the internal air will be the same as the outside air, because you're just blowing it out and replacing it with the outside air. The dew point is a measure of the temperature where condensation takes place at. The dew on the ground that forms outside is because you're getting condensation in the summer. So dew point is a measure of the amount of vapour in air expressed as a degree centigrade. The dew point on the outside can never be greater than the outside temperature, because otherwise it will rain, which takes the moisture out of the air. So the external dew point can never be greater than the outside temperature. If the internal dew point goes above the outside temperature, you have a risk of mould and condensation, because you get zones in the property where you've got poor heat flow, poor airflow, and or poor insulation. And so you want to keep the internal dew point, and I'll show you later on how to look for that. You want to keep the internal dew point below the outside temperature by improving ventilation and or dehumidification.
Yeah, okay, so dehumidifier, keeping windows open.
And using a data logger to know what the state. I mean, I can show you now. But professional grade damp meter, they cost about £500. These cost about £23, and I think they're better.
Yeah.
But they're not calibrated.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter in your own property. What you're looking for is to see that it's drying out.
Yeah.
So I'll go and have a look at where the damp issues are, you have to put it onto masonry mode. And yeah, that's 100%. So it's not above. Oh, I think there's something on the outside, so we'll have a look at that. So we're on the outside. There's a crack there. There's a crack, you see? Apparently it was splashing. Oh, and there's render cracks there. I'll have a better look above. So here's the Schreier technique. The downside of it is that it causes heat loss, increasing the risk of condensation. There's your DPC, damp proof courses there. Doesn't normally show, but so what I'm looking at inside is some brown staining, which suggests that moisture is coming through the wall. But you did tell me that you had a leak upstairs.
We did.
So it could be residual.
Yeah.
But what happens with render cracks, so you've got a render crack in there, you can see it up there, but it's also up there.
Yeah, you can see.
So what tends to happen with most render cracks is that it just dampens the outside brick.
Yeah.
It doesn't penetrate the whole way through.
Yeah.
But a damp brick is a poor insulator, causes heat loss, and it's the heat loss that causes condensation rather than penetrating the whole way through. So, I mean, ultimately the solutions are twofold. You need to seal up the render crack, and typically it's better to use a flexible material like mastic, but it won't last forever. Whereas a hard material like cement-based mortar is more durable, but it's more likely to crack because you don't. And these will tend to be expansion contraction type issues. So I think I would probably put in a mastic, an external acrylic caulk, and paint over it, and then you'll see if it comes back again. You should check it every 6-12 months. Okay. And then similar on this, I would fill those with a acrylic external caulk, and then paint over them. Okay. And then it'll take 6 to 9 months to dry out, but that will also solve the internal issues. You were worried about the gutter. I can't see any specific issues, but I think. Oh, I see. Oh well, if they popped it back into place, then, well, I wouldn't see that. But okay. I don't think that's necessarily a cause for concern. That's just drawing air out of the chimney breast. But
further on, right towards the end. Is that?
Oh, I see. What you're talking about in the corner there?
Is
That's your son's room, is it? But is it blocked up on the inside?
I think so.
That's bad news. You want to ideally fill it with expandable foam so that it insulates it.
So that is an issue.
Because you get the heat loss without the benefit of ventilation.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have a look at that with the thermal imaging camera, see if I spot it. In winter it's much clearer, but this time of year it's less clear. The chimney breasts themselves cause heat loss because what you have in a chimney breast is you have a flue that's open to the elements, and you have a single brick in between. and you get, and because of that you get heat loss.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing specific issues around the chimney breast.
But what you'd be more concerned about is that vent that's been sealed up on the
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah. I'll have a look at that now.
Cold.
So, funnily enough, it probably is that, and it's showing as warmer.
Yeah.
But the likelihood is that in summertime it can show warmer because the metal can heat up with the sun. If the sun was on it at any point, it can. Do you see it just shows warmer? But in winter it will show as colder.
Yeah.
But I personally get people to fill them with insulation like foam and close them off on the outside.
Okay, and you're not going to create problems from
No.
that? No.
No, I mean, so in the old days, so these are probably 20s, I would say, this building, late 20s.
Yeah, I think.
And they didn't have active ventilation; they had passive ventilation in those days.
Yeah.
There was a recognition that vapor was an issue because people were being a bit more aspirational.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, the point being that passive vents are untargeted. You only get the benefit if there's airflow on the outside, like there's wind.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get the heat loss. And a lot of properties I go to, you get a big plume of mould and condensation around the air vent. And when it's blocked up and uninsulated, you get the heat loss without the benefit of the ventilation. So you get worse of both worlds. So yes, I would block it up. For those reasons.
Yeah.
So my son got to GCSE at the time of COVID.
Yeah.
And he was doing lots of late night showers and we had all sorts of damp related issues at that time. And just washing yourself late at night, drying your hair, all of these things, adding vapor. A dehumidifier is a really, it's a blunt tool, but it's a good way to drop the vapor before going to bed and to drop the vapor first thing in the morning.
So use it twice for about how long to use? About an hour.
You could do, but use the data loggers to inform you really, and you don't have any trickle vents in. A huge fan of trickle vents. I prefer this type of ventilation. The safety lock is on.
I don't think it is. Should open.
It should open halfway.
Oh yeah, I see
and be locked. Yeah, so the safety lock's on. And I really encourage people to do that. Yeah. But it can be hard to encourage all occupiers to have it. But
to remember if it's cold as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. For long term,
I would just spray
in
the HG. It's pretty good. Or use bleach.
And if you want, I suppose you could, if you were going to redo it, you could maybe have a layer of insulation. But maybe,
yeah. If you're going to do this again,
if you're going to redo the bathroom,
if you're going to redo the bathroom, well, I mean, there is an argument to have the bathroom slightly colder and regularly remove the mould, then have the vapour go from the bathroom into the rest of the property.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So anyway, I'll have a go at the fan. So this one is quite simple to take off. You just have to pop that open there. I'm going to give it a clean up, but I'm going to have to take it out and then clean it up afterwards. Well, it's about double what it was, but
that's better.
It's going in the right direction.
Yeah, but
it's got a natural overrun, which is probably batteries, but it's not lasting for very long, and it's not adjustable. Summary: you've got a crack in the render on the outside between the two buildings, and then a render crack higher up on the bathroom side. There's a brown stain on the inside, which suggests water passing through building room material, which could come from that leak, but it could also come from the bathroom leak that you discussed before. But with render cracks, what also happens is you get dampening of the external brick that causes heat loss, and that increases the risk of condensation. So either way, the solution is going to be to
Need to
fill
fill those cracks.
the
in.
cracks.
Yeah.
Acrylic caulk is the
Acrylic
gives you
caulk.
some
Yeah.
movement. Cement-based render is longer term.
Yeah.
And paint is actually quite a good way of more of a visual way of seeing if it comes back, because
Yeah.
inevitably they will. It's expansion contraction that causes it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's downstairs. And if you've got condensation, if you've got mold, you've got excess vapor. That's the only reason you ever get mold. And you get excess vapor is the primary cause, but made worse by heat loss, particularly in the corners, poor airflow because of perhaps the cupboards. You don't have a radiator near there as well.
No, it's behind that.
So it's going to be reduced. You're going to get reduced airflow from that. Insulation.
Would it be better under the window, the radiator?
Well, it's it's a double-edged sword, and so I'd say you want to try and increase the flow from that.
You'd have to move that. Wouldn't you?
Move it
Yeah.
just a couple of inches can make a big difference.
Okay.
It's double-edged sword in that if you put it
Yeah.
on the window, you're going to get a lot of heat loss.
Yeah.
But so the primary issue is always the vapor. If you increase the ventilation, and obviously I've doubled the extractor speed, but there's still another double potential.
Yeah.
But you can just keep it running longer and use the data loggers to tell you how much vapor's in the air. So insulation, airflow, but the primary reason is always the excess vapor.
Yeah.
Compared to, so keep the dew point below the outside temperature at all times, and you
Yeah.
won't have a problem going
Yeah.
forward. And then
things like fans on in the bathroom, extractor fan in the kitchen, dehumidifier in there.
I'm happy to look on the outside wall,
Yeah.
just where the rusty nail is, but I believe the rusty nail is from condensation.
Okay.
But can I get access along to that side?
Where we looked before,
Yeah.
I don't know because it's a neighbour's.
Are they there?
So,
Should we knock on the door?
yeah, could maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, once it's rendered, you always have to keep
Yeah.
on top of it.
Keep it at main tent. Okay.
Also, the rain is going, that gutter is pointing uphill. It looks recently painted. Here, that's full of water. That is running uphill.
Okay.
That needs to be.
Reconfigured.
Reconfigured. I mean, ultimately, this is probably better if this is dropped. And then similarly here, do you see
Yeah, I do see.
that is lower than that, which will cause water to overflow, but it's not the cause of the internal damp.
No.
You got another render crack there. We're just talking about the render crack. So the only one that I think is causing internal damp is the front, and that I can't be sure of. It could be historic staining from the from the leak above. In fact, I would say that's probable. But I would do it. It's easy to reach, and it's an easy job. Something that you guys can do. It's not a difficult thing. The cracks on the outside, now they could cause internal damp, but I don't see any signs of them causing them.
Okay.
So it's something that you're going to have to decide for yourselves if it's worth the risk versus the cost of doing it. Because sending somebody around to fill cracks, it does cost. It's going to be there's a day's work of filling cracks and then painting. So it's an economic decision. But I don't see signs that it's causing penetrating damp. I think what you've got is condensation, and I think ventilation is the primary solution to that.
Okay, that's good.
You can take two approaches. One is obviously you're going to. So these are calcium sulfate salts that you're seeing here. The blistering comes from calcium sulfate, and that's the key ingredient in plaster. It's in like finishing plaster.
Yeah.
Some plaster calls itself gypsum, and that's the old-fashioned name for calcium sulfate.
Yeah.
So it's something like 60%. So when it gets damp, it concentrates and crystallizes just like salt, table
Yeah.
salt crystallizes, and it blisters it behind it. But you can, it feels quite dry anyway. It does have a high damp meter reading here,
Yeah.
but you can strip it back and just paint it in the knowledge that you may have to repaint it again.
Okay.
Or let it dry out properly. Things like dehumidifier and airflow speed up the process,
Yeah.
but ultimately time.
Time.
It needs
And
6 to
nice hot
9
summer
months.
as well.
No,
Yeah.
that helps. And also dealing with the crack on the outside.
Do the the paints that kind of stop mold coming through? Any good?
Stain block, do you thinking of?
I think of using-
That I don't think you need it. If you've got a stain, so this one you might consider. You can see, it's harder to see in the light now, but there was a bit of a stain.
some paints stop moisture coming through. Is that not a good idea? Just get it.
No,
Anything else
you don't want to be
around?
dealing with that. No, because you block the natural
Outlet.
buffering of vapor.
Yeah. Okay.
You only need to use that sort of thing with hygroscopic salts, but you don't have them here.
Yeah.